What up, friends? I'm Bad too, and today I'm going to be reviewing Hwasa's debut solo album, María. Hwasa is, of course, from the K-pop girl group MAMAMOO, and I have a little bit of a bias towards her because she's my bias, and I love her. This mini-album is pretty interesting, in my opinion. It combines a lot of the sounds that MAMAMOO have sort of explored on their outings, while also combining it with a sort of alternative R&B, trap pop, and even Latin pop instrumentation here and there. Coupled with Hwasa's very introspective songwriting and just fantastic vocal performances, this really isn't a project that you want to miss. The intro, Nobody Else, is a pretty spacey sounding one, and it sets the darker tone of the MIDI album up pretty nicely. The somber vocals and deep beats also lead into the sort of first real track very well. That being, of course, María, the title track. The muffled sample sets up the tone nicely, and then that tranquil piano hits. I also really like how Hwasa kind of continues the sample a little bit before going into her first verse. There's a bit of a Latin pop vibe going on here in the beats, and that sort of atmospheric synth that pops in here and there really add a lot to her vocals in general, I will say. I also really love that string segment that comes in the chorus. It gives it a very classical touch. All of her flows are just seamless, and she transitions between instrumental styles very effortlessly. She does it a lot, and there's a lot of stuff going on in this one, but it's all paired together very well. The bridge and the sort of breakdown of the track continue that Latin pop trend, and then the acoustic guitar comes in too, and this sort of adds to the manic headspace that I think the lyrics are coming from. They just add to that sort of chaotic energy that I think is taking place within herself. Fittingly enough, the lyrics are pretty much all about this, as she is sort of arguing with herself, as her English name is María, and it's kind of her feeling anxiety and pressure from both fans and society in general, but she keeps telling herself that she's worth it, that she's powerful and special and unique, so it's that sort of inner demons trying to rise up. With Kidding, the acoustic guitar trend continues with a sort of sing-songy intro before breaking into a very dark and danceable beat, weirdly enough. I love that gritty bass line and the sinister sounding keys that come in during the chorus. Hwasa's flow is also very taunting and playful in a really charismatic way. The production on this track in general is just top-notch. She's so nonchalant in her delivery. It's like she's just making fun of the people who are making fun of her, and this is pretty much exactly what the lyrics are about too. It's super pleasant how the lyrics and the instrumental are so in sync on this track, and her "Are you kidding me?" is iconic. Y is a bit similar to Maria's vibe, with a very prominent piano segment and sort of dark trap influenced beats. Her vocals on this one are haunting, and the electro-infused chorus is a super hard-hitting surprise, I must say. This one does seem to have an angrier tone compared to the last few tracks, and I think the sudden harshness of the chorus breaking the pace of the slower verses represents that really well. This track also feels pretty raw for being such a trap-influenced song, and I think it gives it a sort of unique edge in the mini-album. There's a lot of spacey samples in this one that sort of add to the sort of confusion that she finds herself in, that sort of weird foggy headspace that she's talking about. This rawness also applies to the lyrics, with her feeling alone and that she kind of falls in love too easily, almost. How she keeps getting burned by people who she kind of just presents too much of herself to too quickly without understanding their true intentions. Then we get to I'm Bad Too, probably the one that takes the Latin pop influences up to 11 as the acoustic guitar now becomes a prominent part of the beat. I really love those muffled horn sections as well. The background vocals that join in the chorus are super warm and they just have a really nice vibe to them. The chorus is also catchy as hell because of it. DPR Live pairs really well with Hwasa, as they sort of both have this casual singing style going on this track. And they also have this sort of brother-sister dynamic, which I think is pretty cute. This also extends to the lyrics, as Hwasa is kind of getting over a relationship, and DPR Live is the shoulder that she's crying on, essentially. And he's also the guy that's going to beat the shit out of whoever did this to her. Now, LMM, while not the most interesting song instrumentally, I think it's hard to ignore the emotional impact of this one. It's definitely a full-fledged piano ballad, but it's one that really lets Hwasa just go wild with her vocals. The string segments also add some pretty nice ambiance to the track as well. I do like that it also adds a darker beat as the track kind of progresses. I wish it was a bit more full though compared to the rest of the instrumentation. I feel like if the beat was more full, it would really elevate the string segments, the piano portions. It would just make them come together better. There's also some pretty somber and almost tragic lyrics about her sort of looking back on the past and wondering if she's going to be left behind in the future. It's pretty poignant, and I think it does express this mini-album's fears the best. Twit ends the mini-album on a more upbeat note, but I think the mini-album is all the better for it, to be honest. This one was a promotional single that was released quite a bit before this project actually came out, but weirdly enough, it does fit. The bright and playful synths match the booming bass and Hwasa's catchy vocals. Fun stylized guitar passages and a driving beat are also a pretty nice palate cleanser. Hwasa noticeably wanted to end the mini-album on a more confident note, perhaps to show that she's kind of broken through the haze that she was experiencing on the other tracks of the mini-album and is starting to become more confident in herself again. This is what she's all about, after all, and the anti-simp lyrics in this song pretty much express this perfectly, with her knowing how she wants to be treated and knowing what she wants. This mini-album pleasantly surprised me. I wasn't really sure how it was going to sound after hearing that Twit and María were both going to be on it, but there was a lot of variety here, and I really enjoyed it. The lyrics are an obvious highlight, with Hwasa getting pretty vulnerable in a lot of places, and I think she did a good job in pairing the instrumentals with whatever sort of headspace she was talking about at any given moment. Some sounds might not feel as dynamic as others, I suppose, but it really is a good example of how you can be raw and real in a K-pop song, in a K-pop album, and still achieve some pretty great results. And I really do hope that this provides inspiration for a lot of artists out there in the K-pop scene, where you can be a little more detailed, you can be a little more gritty, get into the darker things in life, and people will still enjoy it, I think. I'm feeling a light 8 overall. I really enjoyed this one. Hwasa, my queen, just keep on being you and doing what you do best, because if it's anything like this, up is the only way to go from here. Of course, we do have to talk about the album cover on this show, and I really like this album cover a lot. It's a really sort of close-up of her, and I like the sort of aesthetic that she was going for. It's a bit darker, a bit moodier. The snake kind of is representative of that. I don't really care for the typography on this one. It feels a little bit tacked on. The font is okay, I guess, but I just don't like the placement. The little sort of box around the font that's kind of has its opacity a little low. It just looks kind of like they just didn't know what to do for the title, so they just slapped it on there. Honestly, I think this would have been fine without having the title on the cover. If it was just the image of her with the snake, I think that would have been enough of an emotional impact for a cover, to be honest. And Hwasa is also iconic and recognizable enough to where you don't need any text on the cover, I feel, so might have been best to just get rid of it entirely and let the image do the talking. But that is what I thought about Hwasa's debut solo album. What did you guys think about it? Did you guys enjoy it as well? Is Hwasa your favorite and this impressed you like it did me? Let me know. And until the next one, farewell.